Welcome to our Virtual Justice on the Block Legal Information Clinic. This clinic is part of the virtual series Know Your Child's Education Rights. This session, we will talk about expunging and sealing juvenile records. I am Stephanie Johnson. I'm the senior attorney in the Tallahassee Office of Legal Services in North Florida. And with me is Cheryl Sadler, our educational advocate with Legal Services in North Florida. Just a few quick housekeeping notes. This video provides legal information and should not be considered legal advice. This video does not create an attorney-client relationship or substitute for legal advice you have already been given. You may have defenses that we haven't discussed here, so seeking out an attorney for legal help is always advisable. So we are talking about sealing and expungement today. When youth are arrested or interact with law enforcement, that creates a record. That record can get in the way of things that the youth wants, like school, work, renting an apartment. The purpose of this video is to explain the idea of a juvenile record and what can be done to make sure it doesn't become a roadblock. So Cheryl, what is a juvenile record?
Right. So a juvenile record is for youth who are under 18 or at 18. It includes any time that the youth was ever arrested or detained, with all information about that arrest or detention, including how you pled, whether the charges were abandoned or dismissed or dropped, and what any penalty was. So it's very, very thorough.
And how long is a juvenile record available for?
You know, I wish that question had an easier answer. It depends on the case and on the youth's behavior. So I know it's not a very great answer. So here's the thing. Some records are automatically erased from the system. But because the rules are pretty complicated, we've actually created a toolkit for youth and their lawyers to understand all the twists and turns.
Okay. And that toolkit will be on the Legal Services website under our education section.
Yes.
So who can see a juvenile record?
This may surprise you, but anyone who does a criminal background check, including employers, schools, landlords, and if you've played around in the internet at all, you know that for $20, you can look up pretty much anyone and anything about them.
Okay, that's true. No privacy anymore.
No.
What can a youth with a juvenile record do to keep it from interfering with leases and school and work and those kind of things?
Yeah, so there's actually two things. They can try to get a record sealed, or they can try to get a record expunged. So sealing is like hiding a record, but expungement is like erasing it. So, and again, you know, not great terms, but that's what we have.
And explain to me what record sealing means. What's hiding it?
Right. So when you think about sealing, you think about putting something in an envelope and taping it closed. So it's all records related to a criminal case that are held by the criminal justice agency or the court are no longer accessible to the public. So when you do that Google search, they don't come up. They're still on file at the agency and the court, but, and this really cracks me up, but they can't tell anyone that they have the record. So I just think that's strange. So it's taken out of the criminal justice computer system. It doesn't come up on a background check. And then once it's sealed, however, remember, it's in an envelope that's taped shut, but the judge can say, we're going to get this untaped. We're going to unseal the record. And this is pretty rare, but it does happen. So there is a copy that is still kind of on the back burner if something bad happens.
So can you seal all your records?
Of course not. That would be so easy. We don't do easy. If a youth entered a plea or went to court and was found not guilty, then they can have the record sealed. And after 10 years, with no criminal activity, you can then ask to have the record expunged, which again is erased. But both of these are pretty limited and they take time and money, which is why you really need to work with a lawyer to help this process take place.
Yes. And so what if you have multiple convictions or multiple arrests? Can you have multiple records sealed?
This is kind of a theme with sealing and expungement. It's usually one time. So you can have records related to one criminal episode and sealed. And so one criminal episode, right? I keep thinking of Law and Order. It's one crime, but there might be lots of offenses, right? So you might be arrested for disorderly conduct, but you might also be arrested for having some drugs on your person or for being publicly intoxicated, or so it's that kind of cluster of things, but it's one thing. Or my other example is you may be charged with assault and battery for one fight, and that would be one criminal episode. And this is why, and the same thing for expungement, you're always trying to seal the worst thing, the most serious thing. That's the thing that you want to try to downplay.
Okay. Is everyone eligible for expungement?
Well, anyone is eligible except if you've been found guilty, which we also call adjudicated delinquent, at any time for a felony. You cannot do this. And the second thing is if you've been found guilty or adjudicated delinquent at any time for a list of misdemeanor charges. And they're actually in Florida Statute 943-151-3B. And if you haven't looked that up right away, they're the really serious misdemeanor charges like assault and battery and petty theft, carrying a concealed weapon, unlawful possession of a firearm, use of bombs, abusing children, arson. So these are not like, I kicked somebody's tire. These are a big deal.
All right. So if you have those very serious charges, arrests, or crimes, you're not going to get those sealed or expunged, most likely.
Well, you could possibly get them sealed, but you definitely cannot get them expunged. And again, it's complicated, which is why we put together the toolkit.
So can I get any charge expunged?
Okay, so first of all, if you were found guilty, no, that sticks with you. But secondly, again, same as with sealing, it's only one criminal episode. So, and of course, because again, it's complicated, it's not every crime. So, and again, it tends to be the more serious crimes that, and you can understand this, right? So why do we have a juvenile record at all? It's because we want to make sure that people are safe, and we want to make sure that people are held accountable for their actions. And so the more serious the crime, the less likely we are to put it in a drawer and forget about it.
So based on that, are any felonies eligible for expungement?
Steph, this is definitely a complicated area of law. It depends on the felony. And lawyers are famous for saying it depends, but in this case, it really depends. Serious felonies can never be expunged. So carjacking, aggravated assault or battery, drug trafficking, robbery, no. A lawyer really has to look at the specific felony and tell you if it's eligible for expungement. Now, here's a kind of another thing. You might not think about these as serious, but some traffic violations are classified as criminal. And if you're found guilty of those, the record can't be sealed or expunged. So driving under the influence, reckless driving, and some charges related to driving while a license is suspended. And that's why it gets so complicated, because you just don't think about traffic as criminal, except here it is. So there you go.
So once a record is sealed or expunged, does the youth have to admit to that crime that was sealed or expunged? Like, how does the youth respond on applications and stuff after that?
And that's how it comes up, right? Nobody's, asking you on the street, but then you get that employment application that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Okay. So if a record is sealed or expunged, you have the right, it is legal to deny that arrest. okay, or to fail to report. So you can check the no box. If that application is for employment outside of the criminal justice system, right? So, if you apply to work, I don't know, at McDonald's, you can deny that. That's fine. But if you're applying for a job with the criminal justice agency, so the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, your local sheriff's office, the police, or the Florida bar, we want lawyers to report their crimes. If you're applying for a lot of jobs that have you work with children, the disabled or the elderly, then you have to say, yes, you do not have the right to deny. And also, if you're being prosecuted for another criminal charge or you're buying a weapon where a criminal background check is required, you have to admit. So, it's, again, we've sort of got a cheat sheet because it's not just a straightforward yes or no.
So what should a young adult do if they do have a juvenile record?
Well, the first thing I would advise the youth to do is to find some legal help. You can come to Legal Services North Florida and we can help them, try to help them find a pro bono attorney. There are other legal services, and we have a toolkit that has a question and answer. It has directions for an attorney. It has even like how an attorney can look at a youth's face sheet and decide which crimes might be the most likely for sealing and expungement. We also worked with a wonderful attorney who has done public defense for youth for a long, long time. And she has put together a training video for attorneys so that they understand this complicated area.
Okay. Yeah, and it is complicated. And I just would add also that youth should try to get a copy of their face sheet, because they're going to have to, if they are interested in sealing or expunging, they're going to have to get a copy of their face sheet and to be able to show it to people. So
do you know how a youth goes about that?
I mean, if they can get it through the delinquency court, they can get a copy of their face sheet. So
okay, so when they're at court, they should ask that attorney, hey, I need a copy of my face sheet.
Correct. Yeah.
Good advice.
So as you know, and I know, we are currently in the middle of a legislative session, and I've heard that there is some more changes coming in this legislative session. Is that true?
The session isn't over yet, and once the law passes, even if it does pass both chambers, then the governor can decide to sign it or veto it. So we basically are just keeping a really close eye on that.
All right. Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate your time and all your information.
All right. Thanks.